This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. It's the kind of thing Manitobans dream of being able to do. Pack up the family and fly away in January, somewhere warm like Mexico. But now Ottawa is warning Canadians in Western Mexico to shelter in place. A wave of violence between police and a drug cartel is gripping the city of Culiacan and surrounding areas. It started when authorities arrested the son of notorious drug boss El Chapo. We'll speak to a Winnipegger who's in Mexico in just a moment. But first, here's the CBC's Garrett Barry to show us what's happening.
29 people have been killed in this violence. Violence has gripped this region in western Mexico since yesterday morning. Officials in Mexico this morning said 19 of those that were killed were gang members. 10 of those were from the country's military. No civilian deaths were reported, but there were injuries above that death toll. And officials also said that 21 people were arrested over the past 2 days. All of this and all of this violence is in response to the arrest of Ovidio Guzman. He is the son of El Chapo, but in his own right, also a senior player in the Sinaloa cartel. Allegedly, he is intricately involved with the production of fentanyl in that area. Right now, he's being held at a maximum security prison. Since his arrest, though, cartel members have responded with a show of violence that's ground life in this region to a halt. The city of Culiacan is telling its citizens to stay inside. The airport in that city is still shut down today. And yesterday, travelers trying to leave the region were forced to hide underneath plane windows and in between seats as cartel members shot at the plane from outside. You can see this video here where people hiding basically underneath anything that they can find. Apparently, these gunshots were an attempt to stop Guzman's arrest and his jailing. Last night, Global Affairs Canada responded to all this, issuing warnings to Canadians in the region, telling them to shelter in place if possible. Also, avoid areas where crowds are gathering and don't attempt to cross road blockades, even ones that appear abandoned. Tina Dahl of Edmonton spoke to reporters about her family's situation. 6 of her relatives are in the Mexican city of Mazatlan. They were supposed to leave last night, but Dahl says they can't because those buses that were supposed to bring them to the airport were burned. She told the Canadian press there was a shootout at the airport, so airports are shut down and the cartel put their warriors outside the hotel. I just know my brother and his family are stuck in hotel right now. The federal government says more than 12,000 Canadians have registered themselves as being in Mexico, but given that type of registration is completely voluntary, many don't do it. That number is likely much higher.
CBC's Garrett Barry reporting there. The airport in Mazatlan, a popular place for Manitobans to visit, was also closed last night. Former CBC journalist Sheila North is actually in Mazatlan right now with her children and her grandson. They were supposed to fly home to Winnipeg today, but that didn't happen. North says the trip to Mazatlan was a dream vacation for her family. But yesterday, she got word something was wrong. Global Affairs Canada says the airport in Mazatlan has now reopened. North has been told their flight is delayed until Sunday. Here is some of what else she's experienced.
We're okay so far. It's definitely unnerving to find out what was happening. We were on an excursion on a beautiful day on the water and on an island yesterday when we saw plumes of smoke on the mainland and black helicopters hovering a bit. And we didn't know what was going on. And none of the staff that we were with were telling us what was going on. I think they knew, but they didn't want to make us nervous. It wasn't until people started texting me from home and sending me messages that I realized something was happening. So we checked our social media, my kids and I, and we started to hear what was going on. And then when we got back to the resort, there was definitely a tension of uneasiness here. Lots of people in the lobby sleeping because some of the flights were canceled. And the hotels had long lineups. I mean, the restaurants, because people were staying in. I've registered through the government website our location and all our information, but I haven't heard any updates from them. I hope that someone is monitoring the situation and making sure that we get home safely, because there's a lot of families here, lots of grandparents with little grandchildren from Canada, all over Canada.
A local travel agent advises Manitobans who have an upcoming trip to Mexico to understand their insurance coverage. Monitor the Government of Canada's website, along with websites of other tour operators and airlines. Stay in touch with their travel advisor as well. The Brady Road landfill has now reopened to the public, despite demands from protesters to search it for possible remains of missing Indigenous women. Protesters have blocked access to that dump for 3 weeks, some of them camping outside around the clock. The city says the groups reached an agreement to reopen access. However, not everyone is on board with that. Winnipeg police believe the bodies of 2 murdered First Nation women could be in a different landfill north of the city. The daughter of Morgan Harris, one of those 2 women, worries the remains of other Indigenous murder victims could be lying in Brady instead of in a proper resting place.
The public doesn't realize is my mother was homeless, and so what these warriors are doing is making a sacrifice in tribute to my mother by staying out in the cold and making these sacrifices 24/7 around the clock, making sure that sacred fire is burning for these women.
Police believe the bodies of Cambria Harris's mother and a woman named Mercedes Myron could be at the Prairie Green landfill. Operations there remain stopped while a feasibility study paid for by the federal government looks at how a search might be carried out. People in a northern Manitoba community are marking a decade since a grisly and unsolved murder of a teenage girl. They hope speaking out again about that murder will bring forward new leads to the RCMP and hopefully, finally, justice for the family. CBC's Austin Shibakaya reports.
A community coming together, meeting at the spot where 15-year-old Leah Anderson's body was found brutally beaten to death 10 years ago. Leah left her aunt's house in God's Lake Narrows on January 4, 2013. She was planning to go skating with friends at a rink in the remote northern Manitoba community, but she never arrived. Her body was found 2 days later. No one has yet been charged in connection to her death.
And we wanted to remind people, or especially our CMP, that this case is still unsolved because we haven't received any communication from them on the status of the investigation.
They hope someone will come forward and identify the person responsible for Leah's death. Tiffany Anderson said the event gave her a sense of peace, knowing that people are still speaking up for her sister, and she had a message for the killer.
I would just tell them that I forgive them, and I hope that they find peace with themselves after living with something like that.
RCMP say they will visit God's Lake Narrows in the coming weeks to speak about Leah's case. The unsolved murder has not only been hard on her family, community, but on investigators as well. Austin Shebekigat, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Gimli RCMP are asking for help to find a missing teenager. 17-year-old Letitia Smith was last seen December 28th at a home in Winnipeg Beach. Police are worried about her well-being. If you have any information on where she may be, please give police or Crime Stoppers a call. For the 3rd time in as many days, a progressive Conservative cabinet minister has announced he's bowing out of provincial politics. Reg Helwer, the Minister for Labour, Consumer Protection and Government Services, said today he will not run in the election slated for this fall. The Brandon West MLA was first voted into the provincial legislature in 2011. He has been re-elected twice since. His announcement follows on the heels of similar announcements from Kathy Cox yesterday and Myrna Dreger on Wednesday. Helwer's departure means nearly 1/3 of PC MLAs who were in the party's caucus a year ago, 11 of 36 Tory members, will not run in the next provincial election. Families on one street in Crescentwood in Winnipeg have created a winter wonderland. They have an ice rink that stretches across 4 front yards. Harvard Gardens Ice Rink has grown every year since it began 5 years ago. It's not just a rink for skating. It also has curling rings, a toboggan slide, and even an ice bar. Videographer Walter Bernal slid in for a look last night.
We have a 4-family ice rink that spans 4 houses. And this is I believe it's our 4th year doing it. And it's something that we very much enjoy, just to get out and spend time outside. And it's just great to see kids on the ice all the time playing games. Whether that's coming down the toboggan slide, or having a ringette game, or a hockey game, or just skating lessons. They're out here having fun, which is great.
We like to invite our friends over to skate.
Yes. And sled. And slides.
Yeah, I do hockey and I try to do ringette on the rink sometimes too. I like to do a lot of skating activities.
I like to skate, I like to play ringette and hockey. And
you play hockey?
No, I just like to play it on the rink.
Generally it's the fathers, but everyone does get involved, and whether that's putting up the boards, packing down snow, bringing out the Zamboni, shoveling it when it snows. It takes a bit to get up to the right level and then to get smooth. And so, yeah, we're watering the lawn more in winter than we are in the summer. I think in general, projects come naturally to us. We have 2 engineers in the group, and the kids appreciate it, so that just encourages us to kind of go further and build it bigger and better every year.
We get so many people slowing down to like double take at the rink that we've almost stopped noticing people walking by, stop and say, "Hey, nice rink, how are you doing?" It's great. My favorite part is I've seen a couple other shared neighbor rinks popping up in the neighborhood, and I feel like it's a grand tradition that's spreading and catching.
It's kind of, in a lot of ways, a neighborhood rink. So obviously our families come out and use it, but we all have friends that come, and especially during the Christmas break, every night there was a hockey game, just people from around the neighborhood coming and using the rink.
We come out quite regularly. We've been coming out since before COVID to hang with the neighbors, and it just keeps growing and growing.
It feels great. It's great when your kids are motivated to get outside and enjoy the outdoors, and it feels great for ourselves to get outside and enjoy the outdoors and visit with neighbors.
It'd be kind of cool if we could extend it, but at this point we've got hedges in the way, so I think we might actually have reached our limit.
Well, speaking of all things ice rink related, our Fiona Odlum joins us now live from Assiniboine Park. Why are you there tonight, Fiona?
Well, Janet, tonight is the official grand opening of the Riley family Duck Pond skating rink, and it is absolutely a perfect evening for families and folks just to come out and have a skate on. We've got beautiful music playing, we've got the lights on, there's twinkle lights, the skating rink is lined with pine trees, and there's 2 little fire pits over to the side so you can warm up if you need to, and and it smells amazing, and lots of people are just starting to pour in here. And one of the things that's happening here as well tonight is there's a little pop-up bar inside. You can get cold drinks and you can get hot drinks, and it's just a really fun night to come on out and get your skate on. Let's see what you are up to this week, and I want to show you this viewer photo from Lucas Neville. You can see this picture here, and in the middle of it there are some snowballs in there that need to be made into snowmen. Maybe Lucas will get up to that this weekend and finally finish building that snowman. Well, tonight we have our first full moon of 2023. It rose at 4:06, and we just saw its full illumination at 6:06. It's a small moon, it's a micro moon, and we're currently sitting at -14 degrees here in Winnipeg with a very light wind. You can see on the satellite radar as we zoom in that we don't have a lot of cloud cover, which is great to see that moon, and the snow has stopped that we had this morning. As for snow this weekend, we have none on the radar, but if you are in that northwestern Ontario zone, you could see a couple flakes if you're east of Kenora. So tonight we're going to be looking for temperatures hovering around -15 at midnight with a partly cloudy sky. We could see a little bit of fog between midnight and 7, really probably around that 5-6 a.m. zone. We could see a little patchy fog there. Rising in the morning to -15 degrees. By lunchtime, we'll be at -12. We're going to warm up tomorrow and have a really great day. Lots of great sunshine coming our way, and I want you to note that wind, south 28, gusting 42. That is going to be one of the deciding factors on how much fog we have. We're finally seeing a wind that's going to disrupt the fog and move it out. That's not going to be the same for other parts of the province, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But tomorrow we're looking, for Sunday, we're looking for a high of -6, -8 for Monday. And Janet, on Tuesday, that is when we start seeing our chance of some snow arriving towards us, and on Wednesday, maybe 1 centimeter.
That's not too much to shovel, is it? 1 centimeter we can handle.
Oh, we can totally handle that with a broom. We don't need the snow plows or anything. We can do it.
Perfect. Thank you, Fiona. We'll check in with you a little bit later.
Sounds good.
A family from rural Manitoba says their loved one's hospital transfer makes no sense, and it's actually causing harm. The CBC's Ian Fraze explains.
And we're here to see my mum, who was just transferred yesterday from the Grace when we live in Stonewall.
Lisa Grayson drove 90 minutes to be with her mother at Ericsdale Hospital, an hour longer drive than when her mom was hospitalized in Winnipeg.
We want someplace close.
Her mom, June Grayson, broke her hip and was sent from Stonewall, where she lives, to Grace Hospital in Winnipeg for hip replacement surgery. The procedure was on New Year's Day. Rural patients are generally sent to their local health region to recover if possible. This way, they're closer to home. But the Interlake Eastern Health Region is massive, and the closest hospital with space for June Grayson was in Ericsdale. Lisa Grayson fought for her to stay in Winnipeg.
I pleaded with the nurse, I pleaded with the doctor.
But her mom was moved anyway.
With her delirium and with her dementia, the most important thing for her is to have family close by. I was called in 2 nights to come and sit with her. I was requested to be by her side. At least Grace Hospital is 20 minutes away from me. Ericsdale is an hour and a half one way, and I can't make that drive.
Health officials say they'll get June closer to home as soon as a bed's available. But Lisa Grayson says her mom's experience shows the current system is flawed.
It doesn't make sense when we have to drive so far. A 90-minute drive from Stonewall.
Grayson says her mother's mental state is fragile and doesn't want her moved again until she's recovered and can go home. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Drugstores across Manitoba are now struggling with a shortage of cold and flu medications. Pharmacists Manitoba says while children's over-the-counter medications are finally returning to store shelves, they're not empty like this, cold and flu products for adults are now in short supply, especially cough suppressants. Pharmacists are urging people not to stockpile. If you take what you need, but don't take any more than that. They say you can often find other ways to treat your symptoms.
The decongestant is unavailable. We're maybe going to really emphasize that nasal saline spray. If someone's got a cough and the cough suppressant they're looking for isn't there, we can suggest hydration, a humidifier in the room, and things like that. So there often are alternatives to work around, but it's becoming more important for clients to actually seek the help of a pharmacist rather than just go to the shelves and find what they're used to grabbing.
Pharmacists are urging people to focus on preventing illness during this cold and flu season by doing things like washing your hands more often, wearing a mask if you're in a crowd, and staying home when you're sick. Whether it's COVID, RSV, or the common cold, it has been a brutal cold and flu season, earlier than normal. Why is that? Riley Lachuk asked Doctors Manitoba President Dr. Candice Bradshaw.
Dr. Bradshaw, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Riley.
So first, I just want to ask broadly, what is circulating in Manitoba right now?
So right now we're seeing 3 main respiratory viruses circulating, those being COVID-19, RSV, and influenza. And these have been around for several weeks already in the fall, and there's really no sign of them going anywhere for the next several weeks of winter either.
So why does it seem so bad this year? It seems like everyone around us is getting sick, whether it be at the workplace, people in our families and schools. You know, we have these 3 viruses circulating. Why does it seem like everyone's getting sick at the moment?
So it is an unusual season where we've had this triple threat, which we haven't really seen before. And that can be due to a few things. I mean, everyone's been cooped up for a couple of years and had to put Christmas on pause, not once, but twice, things like that. So now this year, everybody's ready to go. Everyone wants to meet, socialize, gather in large groups, have parties, and that's totally understandable. So we're seeing more gatherings causing more infections. So there's one thing. Another thing would be, you know, for the last couple of years, there's very young children who weren't really exposed to RSV. And now they're coming up age 4 or 5 and seeing their first exposure of it, along with the usual cohort of 2 and 3-year-olds who are having their first exposure as well. So it's kind of a double whammy on that one as well. So, you know, it's winter. Everybody's gathering indoors. Nobody's outdoors that I know of, and poorly ventilated spaces. Not everybody's wearing a mask, and increasing wearing masks would help.
Yeah, and that sort of led me into my next question. What is your best advice for Manitobans over the next few weeks, even the next month or so?
So some good advice. We've already all heard these things, but it bears repeating. Make sure that you have a good fitting mask and wear them when you're in a poorly ventilated space. Wash, sanitize your hands as often as you can. Get your COVID booster if you're due for one, and get a flu shot. As well as, you know, stay home if you're sick. So a lot of people are kind of getting a little more relaxed on that one, but it matters, and infecting others is causing problems. So stay home if you're sick. Keep stocked with rapid antigen tests. Have them on hand so that if you need them, you've got a test to do right away. Keep a lot of masks on hand, and also have a plan so that you're not scurrying at the last minute trying to figure out what to do if you have a child or somebody in the house that has tested positive. So planning ahead can help ease the burden of what's going to happen.
So I know there's been a lot of gathering happening the last few weeks or so. Kids back in school again. Are you worried about what could happen in our hospitals, I guess, post New Year's, the first few weeks of the new year, I guess, once everyone's gatherings are kind of wrapped up?
Certainly. So, I mean, everybody's learned over the last couple of years how this all works. There's sort of that delayed reaction after there's a season of gatherings. So a few weeks into January, we're going to see what the result of that is. So physicians are concerned not only about the health and well-being of Manitobans, but overwhelming hospitals. And, you know, we've all been hearing the stories of people having their surgeries delayed. And I'm certainly, as a family doctor, seeing it here, where I've had patients waiting 1 to 2 years with a lot of pain, needing a hip replacement, ending up on their surgery date with an IV in hand, being escorted out, saying you're not getting your surgery after all, because the hospitals are overwhelmed, the ICUs are packed, and the staff just aren't there, and the spaces aren't there to put new patients that need new care coming into the hospital. So everyone's already committed looking after the more critical patients, and there needs to be some catch up. So we are concerned. 96% of our physicians, when we polled them recently, were very, very concerned about hospitals being overwhelmed.
So when should you, if you're not feeling well, for example, maybe not the easiest one to answer, but when should you see a doctor? When should you go to the ER?
You know, I would say you would want to see a doctor if you've had a fever for over a couple of days, you're not sure why, your COVID test is negative, you're feeling really unwell. So a fever 38.0 or higher usually, give it at least a couple of days, especially if you're short of breath or you're having chest pain, or you're in pain that you can't explain and you can't control with some simple over-the-counter medications like Tylenol or Advil. Go ahead and get yourself seen. Sometimes it doesn't have to necessarily mean a trip to urgent care or emergency. It can just mean a phone call to HealthLinks, or, for example, our clinic has a nurse that can be called for our patients to run things by. So there are other things you can do rather than just showing up and needing an appointment.
I want to end maybe a bit optimistic. Is there any end in sight to this? Like, are we over the hill yet?
Okay, look at the difference even 12 months ago from now, and especially 24 months ago. We have come a long way, and people are finally enjoying life again, and that is so nice to see. And we need that. We need to. So there is lots of hope, lots of positive on the horizon.
All right. Dr. Bradshaw, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Coming up now, so what happened to the ceasefire in Ukraine? Ukrainian officials wouldn't accept it, and they accuse Russia of breaking it anyhow. And this is Ukrainian Christmas Eve, so we'll hear from a Winnipeg family who are celebrating it here for the very first time. Stay with us. A ceasefire ordered by Russian President Vladimir Putin was now supposed to be in effect in Ukraine. But Ukrainian officials accuse Russia of breaking it and opening fire in several areas. CBC's Stewart has more.
As Ukrainian soldiers gathered for a special Orthodox Christmas service, some put their faith in the power of prayer, but none in Russia's supposed ceasefire. I think this ceasefire is like always the usual bullshit, said one soldier. What ceasefire? Probably they need to get some respite. Russia said its troops would observe a 36-hour ceasefire to mark the holy holiday. Ukraine rejected that overture and warned its residents to stay away from church services as they could be targeted. Not long after it supposedly came into effect, air raid sirens sounded across the country, sending people into shelters, including those in traditional holiday dress. Closer to the front line, there was little comfort. The eastern Ukrainian city of Kramatorsk was rocked by explosions in the hours before the ceasefire deadline. I personally feel fear, said one woman. The Ukrainian authorities in Kherson released this footage showing the aftermath of an attack on a fire station, which they say happened early Friday. Officials say one rescue worker was killed. Russia's Ministry of Defense claimed the country was honoring its own ceasefire and accused Ukraine of continuing to fight, which the country had vowed to keep doing.
We need 365 days of ceasefire a year. It should be a peace.
Abbas Galyamov used to write speeches for President Putin, and now he's one of his biggest critics. He sees this as a failed attempt to reassert control.
So when you are trying to set the agenda and nobody is following your agenda, you are looking like a loser. Nobody respects what you are telling. Nobody is paying attention to what you are telling.
Russia claims its ceasefire will last until Saturday evening, but along the front lines, the Ukrainian army says nothing has changed. Their positions are under attack, but they still gather together to try and celebrate the holiday and toast what they hope will be victory in the year ahead. Stewart, CBC News, London.
Yes, as Breyer mentioned, for Ukrainians and other Orthodox Christians, even some Ukrainian Catholics, this is Christmas Eve. Olesia Chichkevich came to Winnipeg with her 3 children in July. Her husband and the rest of her family are still in Ukraine. I spoke to her late this afternoon and asked how she's feeling this Christmas Eve.
Oh, it's special holiday because during this holiday every year we went to our parents. When my grandparents were alive, we went to them. Their Ukrainian tradition, all relatives gather together around a big table and the whole day we were preparing all together our all Christmas dishes. And of course, I miss my family. I talked today with them in the morning, but I came here with my kids and we keep all our traditions, and also we cooked all these dishes, and today we'll have together here, I with my kids, Holy Supper.
Have you met many other Ukrainians since you've arrived?
Sorry?
Have you met other people from the Ukrainian community since you arrived in Winnipeg?
Yes, of course. Here in Winnipeg, I met a lot of Ukrainian peoples, and many of them are celebrating today, Christmas Eve, and they will also have a Holy Supper.
Is there a plan to get together with other members?
No, it's mostly this Christmas Eve and this Holy Supper is mostly family holiday. All members of family are gathered together around the table, and we never spend this holiday with other families or with other people. We gather together in our parents' house, and it's our just family holiday, not for other people. And I hope, and I think maybe even I'm pretty sure that each Ukrainian family celebrate in their apartment, in their houses, in their rooms together, because it's mostly family holiday.
And how is your family doing in Ukraine?
They were very worried about us when we came here, because I came here just alone. But here in Winnipeg, I met great Ukrainian community, and a lot of Canadians help us a lot, and We met here many new friends, and now they're happy that we are good here, and my kids are happy at school, in a daycare. And of course, now in Ukraine, it's very difficult situation because sometimes even whole day my husband and my relatives stay without lights and also without central heating, but they are okay. They hope, they pray, and everything will be okay, of course.
Alessia Chechkevich, thank you so much for taking the time today. Merry Christmas, and I hope next year your family's all together again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your help here. Thank you for everything.
What a lovely woman. We're going to check in with Fiona Odlum at Assiniboine Park. The duck pond is now open for skating. Will you go explore? Fiona will give us a look at the Manitoba forecast in just a moment as we look at beautiful Assiniboine Park. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Hockey fans are now basking in the glow of another World Juniors title. If you missed Team Canada's overtime win in last night's final, or even if you didn't, here it is again.
He's got Wall with him. Joshua Wall walks in, Gunther with a chance to score!
Dylan Gunther was Canada's hero, ending 6 minutes and 22 seconds of overtime agony. Team Canada's 2-goal lead over the Czech team crumbled midway through the third period. Canada's second straight World Junior title, its 20th since the tournament began. So Canada wins back-to-back gold. Now that that's all over, advocates and experts say it's time for Hockey Canada to get back to work, cleaning up its act when it comes to the scandal that's been hanging over its head for months now. Karen Pauls has more.
It's been an exciting 2 weeks at the World Juniors in Halifax and Moncton, but now experts and advocates are hoping attention turns once more to the serious problems Hockey Canada is facing.
Perhaps predictably, we haven't heard from Hockey Canada as they've allowed the focus to be on the current games. And I really hope when they start to announce their vision, their mandate, to take a look at what do we do now. I think it's a serious misstep if we take the success of the World Juniors this year and say all is good just based on the performance of the game and on the ice.
Most major sponsors pulled their support from Team Canada and the tournament after it was revealed that Hockey Canada has settled sexual assault claims using money from registration fees. Police are investigating at least 2 separate alleged group sexual assaults involving former Team Canada hockey players between 2003 to 2018. Tim Skew says criminal charges may be what it takes to shock the system into change.
It's often dismissed as it's just a couple bad apples. And I think through the research that we've done, through multiple interviews, it's not a one-off. There's something systemic that's embedded itself in hockey culture.
Let's go, Canada!
In Halifax, officials would rather talk about the success of this tournament than the cloud hanging over it.
I think Halifax and Moncton, that was the place to come back. Why? Because first of all, there is a spirit. You feel the tournament everywhere, in Moncton, in Halifax.
IIHF officials won't comment on the criminal investigations, saying it's a Canadian affair. And while they admit there has been a hit to Hockey Canada's reputation, they're confident the new interim board will fix things.
We don't have to throw the baby with the bathwater. And there is something still good for ice hockey.
Lots of good, but still lots to work on.
What I see every day in our arena still across this country as a very non-conducive culture to positivity. Lots of yelling, lots of beratement, parent abuse, hazing, bullying. I don't want to be negative, overly negative here, but it is a huge problem. They need to dig very, very, very deep to shift this.
Forsyth and others want a complete overhaul of what behaviors are allowed on and off the ice and how maltreatment is handled at every level of hockey. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Let's go back out live to Assiniboine Park and the Duck Pond, where our weather specialist Fiona Odlum is standing by. Fiona?
Well, Janet, I have to tell you that being here at Assiniboine Park at the Riley family duck pond is bringing back a whole lot of memories. I grew up learning to skate on this exact pond. Now, I'm not going to tell you that skating here is going to get you to the Olympics, but you'll be able to, go for a nice little twirl about, and that's what folks are doing here tonight. They're having a lovely time. The pond is officially open for skating. There's a couple fires going off to the side here in some drums where you can warm up, and there's drinks inside that you can purchase. And that's new this year with the little pop-up bar. But let's take a look at our current conditions here in Manitoba, where it is a perfect evening for skating. Right now we're sitting at minus 12 degrees at the Forks, minus 17 in St. Laurent, minus 19 in Steinbach. We're sitting at minus 15 in the Gimli region, minus 17 in Swan River, minus 11 for our friends in Red Lake. And, you know, if you look at the Paw, we're sitting at minus 16 and minus 16 in Churchill. So you can see that we have very consistent temperatures really across the province. So now the fog. Oh, it has been a week of fog, hasn't it? We're going to run the models here. I want you to see how the fog is going to be moving and changing all across the province. There's going to be times where Melita is sitting at 7.5 kilometers of visibility, and Winnipeg will be dipping down to about 6 kilometers of visibility. So it really is going to be varying over the next couple of hours here in terms of where the thickest fog is going to be. One of the factors that's going to help us is the wind. We're going to see it taking up a little bit. You can see it's almost gusting to 40 kilometers there. That's good news. That's going to push that fog out and clear up the roads, looking for a calm day of wind on Sunday. All right, tonight we're going to look for a partly cloudy sky in Red Lake and minus 14 degrees as well in the Dryden area. Looking for some light snow to possibly pop up later tonight, but it's going to be a pretty slim chance of that happening. But fog will be an issue over in Dauphin and Brandon tonight, and as we look a little bit further north, we could see some patchy fog developing and some light snow into that Flin Flon region. Tomorrow, we're going to be looking for temperatures to be rather warm for Churchill, minus 9 degrees, but cloudy and some light snow throughout the day. Looking for some fog in the morning, but lots of sunshine coming our way in the afternoon as a ridge of high pressure is going to be sweeping in and clearing things out throughout the day, which is going to be fantastic. However, a little bit cloudier the further east we go. If you're going to be jumping on that snowmobile, I've got good news for you. I checked the provincial parks, and we have snowmobile trails opening in the northern and western parks this weekend, and you're going to have some pretty great conditions, Janet.
Oh, that's great. Now all I need is a snowmobile and, you know, like some gear and, oh, well, some year. Thanks so much, Fiona.
It's, you know, you're welcome.
I didn't mean to cut her off there. She could have kept talking. That would have been great. Hey, long haul trucking. A Winnipeg truck driver has amassed a following on YouTube. We're going to find out why in just a moment. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. A brutal storm, a semi tipping over on an icy highway, and a border agent who speaks Tagalog. That short list highlights just some of the most popular YouTube content produced by Winnipegger Mark Anthony Malinab, aka Pinoy Trucker. Students at Sisler High School introduce us to him now as part of CBC Manitoba's ongoing Project POV Sisler Create.
Mark Anthony Malinab, isa akong truck driver dito sa Winnipeg, Canada. Nag-start ako nag-trucking in Saudi Arabia for 6 years, and then 2 taon ako nag-trucking sa Europe. And then pagdating dito sa Canada, kumuha ako ng class 1 ko dahil gusto ko ulit mag-trucking dito sa Canada at saka sa Amerika. So yung YouTube channel na-create siya ng 2016, and yung content niya is more about trucking. So gusto ko lang ipakita sa mga tao how kaming mga truck drivers namumuhay sa loob ng truck, paano yung aming trabaho sa highway, and pakita sa kanila yung mga magagandang scenery sa Canada and America. Na-create ang Pinoy Trucker kasi gusto ko rin siyang ipakita dun sa mga youth, hindi lang dito sa Canada, kahit sa Pilipinas, na pwede kang maging truck driver dito sa bansa ng Canada at saka sa Amerika. Kahit wala kang experience, pagdating mo dito sa Canada, pwede kang maging truck driver. Marami na akong na-meet ng mga subscribers dito sa Canada, and then the last one in Texas, Dallas. Pinuntahan nila ako doon, nagdala sila ng food para sa akin. Well, na-excite ako dahil nga naka-follow sila sa aking YouTube channel. Sinusundan nila bawat araw-araw na buhay ko sa highway. Masaya sa loob. Meron siyang snowstorm in Indiana. Then, nagsasalita lang ako sa camera, and then nag-hit siya ng, I don't know, uabot ng 500,000 like that. And then yung merong last year, 2021, March, meron siyang truck na nag-flip mismo sa tabi ng aking truck.
Sabi ko sa inyo, matulin siya eh.
Meron pang isang border officer na kinausap ako in Tagalog sa US.
Magandang umaga, Mark. Magandang umaga to. How did you know that one?
Oh, I know lots of stuff.
Maybe you have a lot of Filipino friends, yeah?
No, a lot of Filipino truck drivers. Walang kasama?
Wala, sir. Ako lang. Oh, really? You really talk Filipino?
Yes, I told you.
That's amazing.
Mahirap siya dahil dito sa Canada nagde-drive kami ng 13 hours. Sa Amerika, 11 hours. Pag nandun ako sa loob ng Amerika, yung editing ko ay takes 3 hours. Isang content. Minsan nakakadalawang content ako sa 3 hours na yan. Then, tawag sa family and then sleep. Meron akong 5 hours sleep every day. Ang sabi ko nga sa kanila, pag pumasok ka dito sa trucking industry, you have to think about it. Kailangan mong kausapin yung family mo na itong work nito is not easy. Dahil once na umalis ka na ng bahay and hindi mo alam kung kailan ka makakabalik or makakabalik ka ng safe, no? Kasi like sa weather natin dito sa Canada, may winter time. Sa Amerika, kahit gaano ka mag-drive, na maingat ka mag-drive, but yung ibang driver hindi nag-iingat, so unsafe pa rin. Kaya yung mga Pilipino na nag-drive dito sa Canada, or kahit hindi lang Pilipino, lagi niyong kausapin yung family niyo. Every time na mag-aalis kayo sa inyong bahay, kausapin yung family na, I'll be back home soon.
We hope you will. Hey, we're going to check back in with people having fun at Assiniboine Park. Our Fiona Odlum's there with your 7-day forecast. Then we've got your daily lift. We'll be right back.
We have had an absolutely fabulous evening here tonight at Assiniboine Park at the Riley Family Duck Pond. It is open. You can come skate here till 10 o'clock tonight. Let's see what the conditions are like for this weekend if you want to come out tomorrow. We're looking for a daytime high tomorrow of -6 degrees, an overnight low of -11, and -6 again for Sunday. As we look to our long-range forecast, you can see we have a bit of a weather disturbance coming to us on Tuesday into Wednesday with a possible centimeter of snow, but then it certainly warms up, Janet, for a great week ahead.
Fiona, you have been an absolute trooper out there. I know how hard it is to talk when it's cold. And standing still, it's not the same as skating. Skating, you can stay warm, right?
Yeah, I got to get my skates on. I got to go.
Okay, you get your skates on. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
You too, my friend.
A Quebec artist is getting a lot of attention for her portrait of World Juniors star Connor Bedard. Samantha Woj has 2 fingers on each hand because of a genetic condition, but that's not a problem at all for her.
Honestly, it started off as a joke with my sister. Why don't I use the sports equipment that I have around the house and that we don't use anymore and just roll it on canvases that I have? He's been breaking a lot of records, so I was like, hey, I'm gonna paint him using equipment that he often uses, which was like the stick and the puck, and he's been scoring so many goals, so I used both equipment. And it's exciting to see like how far can he push this record-breaking kind of streak he's on. If he does see it, A, I'll be like, oh my gosh, he knows I exist. And then also B is like, I really hope he likes it and he thinks I did a good job of painting him. Sometimes when I post art, people do well. So I'm like, maybe I'm giving a little bit of luck. Every day is just, I'm blown away by when either people write me or post my art and I'm like, okay, you actually like it and you're sharing it and it's getting around, and it's just this incredible energy I get and just so excited that it's just, I'm on a cloud 9.
Painting with the equipment. Thanks so much for being with us. We will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.